This was now very like the courtyard, for the roof had long since disappeared, and it was merely another space of grass and daisies, except that it was shorter and narrower, and the walls were higher. Across the far end there was a kind of terrace, and about 3 feet higher than the rest. I wonder, was it really the hall? Said Susan. What is the terrace kind of thing? Why, you silly, said Peter, who had become strangely excited. Don't you see? That was the days where the high table was, where the king and the great lord sat. Anyone would think you had forgotten that we ourselves were once kings and queens, and sat on a days just like that in our great hall, in our castle of Paravel, continued Susan in a dreamy and rather sing-song voice, at the mouth of the great river of Narnia. How could I forget? How it all comes back, said Lucy. We could pretend we were in Paravel now. This hall must have been like the great hall we feasted in. But unfortunately without the feast, said Edmund. It's getting late. You know, look how long the shadows are. And have you noticed that it isn't so hot? We shall need a campfire. And if we got to spend the night here, said Peter, I've got matches. Let's go and see who can collect some dry wood. Everyone saw the sense of this, and for the next half hour they were busy. The orchard through which they had first come into the ruins turned out not to be a good place for firewood. They tried the other side of the castle, passing out of the mall by a little side door in a maze of stony humps and hollows which must have once been passages and smaller rooms, but now was all nettles and wild roses. Beyond this, they found a wide gap in the castle wall and stepped through it into a wood of darker and bigger trees, which they found dead branches and rotten wood and sticks and dry leaves and fir cones in plenty. They went to and fro with bundles until they had a good pile on the days. At the 5th journey, they found the well, just outside the hall, hidden in the weeds, but clean and fresh and deep, which they had cleared these away. The remains of a stone pavement ran halfway round it. Then the girls went out to pick some more apples, and the boys built a fire on the days and fairly close to the corner between two walls, which they thought would be the snuggest and warmest place. They had great difficulty in the lighting and used a lot of matches, but they succeeded in the end. Finally, all four sat down with their backs to the wall and their faces to the fire. They tried roasting some of the apples on the ends of the sticks, but roasted apples are not much good without sugar, and they are too hot to eat with your fingers till they are cold to be worth eating. So they had to content themselves with raw apples, which, as Edmund said, make one realize that school suppers weren't so bad after all. I shouldn't mind a good thick slice of bread and margarine this minute, he added. But the spirit of adventure was rising in them all, and no one really wanted to be back at school. Shortly after the last apple had been eaten, Susan went out to the well to get another drink. When she came back, she was carrying something in her hand. Look, she said in a rather choking kind of voice. I found it by the well. She handed it to Peter and sat down. The others thought she looked and sounded as she might be going to cry. Edmund and Lucy eagerly bent forward to see what was in Peter's hand. A little bright thing that gleamed in the firelight. "Well, I'm Jigger," said Peter, and his voice also sounded queer. Then he handed it to the others. All now saw what it was. A little chest knife, ordinary in size, but extraordinarily heavy because it was made of pure gold, and the eyes in the horse's head were two tiny little rubies, or rather one was, where the other had been knocked out. "Why," said Lucy, "it's exactly like the one of the golden chessmen we used to play with when we were kings and queens at Carvel." "Cheer up, Sue," said Peter to his elder sister. "I can't help it," said Susan. "It brought back, oh, such lovely times, and I remember playing chess with fawns and good giants, and the mer people singing in the sea, and my beautiful horse, and now, said Peter, in a quite different voice, "it's about time we four started using our brains." "What about?" asked Edmund. "Have none of you guessed where we are?" said Peter. Go on," said Lucy. I felt for hours that there was some wonderful mystery hanging over this place. Fire ahead, Peter. "Fire ahead, Peter," said Edmund. "We're all listening." "We are in the ruins of Parvel itself," said Peter. "But I say," replied Edmund, "I mean, how do you make this out? That out? This place has been ruined for ages. Look at all those big trees growing right up to the gate. Look at the very stones. Anyone can see that nobody has lived here for hundreds of years." "I know," said Peter. "This is the difficulty. But let's leave out for the moment. I want to take the points one by one. First point: this hall is exactly the same shape and size as the hall at Parvel. Just picture a roof on this and a colored pavement instead of grass and tapestries on the walls, and you get a royal banqueting hall." No one said anything. "Second point," continued Peter. "The castle well is exactly where our well was, a little to the south of the great hall, and it is exactly the same size and shape." Again, there was no reply. Third point: Susan has found one of our old chessmen, or something as like one of them as 2 peas. I always need to check my time. Yeah, I can't do it.